Welcome to episode 1 of the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast with Brandon Salazar, your go-to destination for expert perspectives and valuable insights from the world of business. Today I am here with Greg Senkevitch, the Chairman, President, and CEO of Beneficial Holdings, Inc. Now before we get into the questions, I would like to thank Mr. Senkevitch for being a guest on the podcast.
Well, Brandon, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. I appreciate having the ability to share some of my insights with the students here at Ryder and any others who listen to your podcasts.
All right, to start off, can you share a little bit about your background and journey to becoming who you are today?
Sure. So I graduated from Ryder way back when, 40-something years ago in 1979, and I went to work for a very large accounting firm, which is now one of the big four accounting firms, and I was there for about 5 years. I left as a audit manager. I had several real estate clients. I had one large insurance company as a client. I had a smaller insurance company as a client, several banks, a couple of high-tech companies, but mostly it was finance, insurance, real estate. And so I was recruited as the controller of Prudential Insurance Company's development subsidiary, real estate development subsidiary, which was one of the larger real estate developers in the country at that time. We owned office towers in every major city, suburban office parks throughout the United States, hotels, apartments, industrial properties, and so I was controller of the division that built all that stuff. And I then became, I got myself promoted to vice president. That was pretty cool, and reassigned to working with institutional investors that wanted to co-invest with Prudential in specific projects. So I basically became what's called in the real estate industry an asset manager. So I had joint ventures with every large Japanese life insurance company, some large British companies, U.S. pension plans, and we were owning, building, operating office towers and hotels throughout the United States. At one point in time, I think I had 30 of those ventures I was responsible for, and it was quite the experience because we were one of the first people to do joint ventures with the Japanese back in the 80s. So then I went from there. I did a leveraged buyout, which was very interesting because it was probably the worst time to do a leveraged buyout in the early 1990s. There was a general financial slowdown in America and a lot of disruption economically. And we did a leveraged buyout of a company that manufactured houses in factories, and we were also selling them in real estate development. So that whole business just completely cratered. It was interesting because I didn't have the financial resources of the Prudential, which, as everybody knows, is one of the largest financial institutions in the world. It was just little old us with some private equity that was basically a family office, and we had limited capital capabilities, but we worked through it. And that learning experience in my early 30s basically set me up for the rest of my career, which is basically the largest part of my career. So when we worked through the issues of the early 1990s, sold off that company. I went back to commercial real estate with a small New Jersey-based owner of office properties, and we built that company eventually into a $1 billion plus a balance sheet, and we brought in institutional investors. We did about $250 million worth of equity, institutional equity into that company, and we operated it as a privately held real estate investment trust. We had all the same reporting requirements, all the same governance requirements. And there I brought together all of the skills that I had. So everything that I did in my early years in the accounting world, coupled with all the on-the-job learning I had at Prudential with commercial property, and my last job at Pru of being a asset manager. We built this company. My team. It was a team of about 5 senior managers, and eventually sold it off. So took a couple of years off, and like to think I'm back now. We're trying to get back now. So Beneficial Holdings is a company that's engaged in infrastructure, the built environment. So we've got a couple of larger scale renewable energy projects that include energy storage. All these are like pretty cool concepts today. And we grew to that from doing a lot of small projects like that. And now we've got a couple of projects in large scale projects in the Southwest, and a couple in Puerto Rico, fairly large projects. And the other enterprise that I run is we're trying to get back into the real estate game put the band back together, so to speak. So we're looking to acquire 2 portfolios of suburban office properties, which is a counter-cyclical investment in today's environment.
All right, so stemming off that question, we'll go into question 2, and that's, what key advice would you offer to individuals aspiring for success but feel uncertain about where to begin?
You've got to do the internships. You've got to talk to friends, family, alumni, network. Try things out. I mean, if you're here at Ryder and or any 4-year school, you owe it to yourself to hustle into whatever opportunity you could align yourself with and try it out. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. One summer I did call center work, right? Now I learned a lot from working the call center, but I realized that, that's not Greg. Greg's not going to run a call center, operate a call center, be a manager in a call center. It just wasn't me, but I learned a lot, right? And I learned that it wasn't me. So you're gonna look at a lot of stuff and you say, I'm not that excited with this. But then you'll see some stuff that you are, then try to position yourself to get into that opportunity.
So basically, in summary, that would be finding your passion and finding something you're good at the same time. So something you love to do every day and something that you excel at and could be your best version of.
Absolutely. But you may not know what that is until you actually get a chance to get closer to it. And the only way you're going to get closer to it is by networking.
Yep. All right, so to go on to question 3, how do you approach strategic planning and goal setting to drive long-term success?
This is one of the favorite questions that you're going to ask me. So there's certain points of time in the year where I just shut down. And that's usually between Christmas and New Year's, or the first couple weeks of the new year where no one's really around. The couple days the world shuts down around Thanksgiving, or around Easter, the Jewish holidays, etc. The business environment just slows. I like to take those times, just sit down and look at what I'm doing. Basically go through all your Dropbox files and say, what's hot, what's not? Why is it not? Did we just miss this opportunity? And when you're doing that, you synthesize that with the stuff you're reading online. I don't watch any TV news anymore. It's useless to me. But I read a lot of stuff online. By 5:30 in the morning, I've read the Wall Street Journal, and I've read the New York Times, and I've read the Washington Post, and I've read most of the stuff that comes out early in the morning in the real estate industry and in the renewables industry. So let's say by 6 o'clock, when I'm finally saying, okay, time to get up now for real, I've read all that stuff. And then the couple times a year when I slow down, I'm taking all that and I'm mashing it together with everything that we've done or we're working on, saying, you know what, this is never going to work. Throw this out. Or, God, we missed this whole opportunity. How do I get back into that game? And so that's the strategic planning that I do.
Yeah, I like that because there's an opportunity cost to everything that we do, and to highlight your point that to think back and take some time to reflect, I think that really helps maximize what you can actually make out of every opportunity, because everything is an opportunity cost. Some things are going to outweigh the others, and sometimes it's going to be hard to choose between two things. But I feel like that's a really good method of using to determine.
Some people are always strategic planning. Those are the nuts.
Yeah.
Because, oh, we're doing this. No, we're doing that. No, we're doing this. Doesn't work. If you're running a company that's got 50 or 100 people in it, you're going to confuse them to the high heavens, and you're going to be looked at as a scatterbrain boss.
Yeah.
You just got to take a couple times a year and say, okay, I'm just going to go into the Aaron Rodgers, dark chamber for a couple of days and come out with a new fresh set of ideas or a modified set of ideas.
All right. So to start with question 4, can you talk about a pivotal moment or decision in your career that significantly impacted your trajectory?
Yeah, I would say when I made a decision in 1989, when I looked around at what became of my group of bosses at Prudential, I said, I don't want to grow up to be like any one of these guys. I just don't. So I started looking for an exit, and I was recruited onto a team that was going to do this leverage buyout. And I met with the capital partners, and they said, well, if you want this job, you need to write the business plan. I wrote the business plan for the company before we even bought the first target. And that was a pivotal moment. I had worked for a very large accounting firm, very structured, worked for Prudential, super structured. There was a paycheck every week, whether you did a deal or not. When you go do one of these deals, you're on your own. It's sink or swim. And that was a pivotal decision because I proved to myself that I could figure out how to swim.
Sometimes that's all you need to drive yourself for other things. But so a similar question, but what are the biggest challenges you faced in your industry, and how have you overcome them?
In the life that I've chosen for myself, be it infrastructure, the built environment, real estate, you always need capital. The biggest challenge is working with institutional capital. Because if you're doing large scale projects, you need, a bank that could lend you $400 million. And they think a lot differently than you do. They're super structured. But having had the experience at Prudential and having had the experience having large financial institutions as clients when I was in public accounting, you say, all right, these guys are thinking this is what's going on inside their company, they need this, they're scared about this, I need to be prepared to give them what they need to get this through their approval process. Because if you fight them, you're never going to get a deal.
Yep. So moving on to question 6. So what role do mentorship and mentor-mentee relationships play in your professional development? And do you believe that having a mentor relationship is impactful for a college student or recent graduate is looking to enter into an industry?
It's a very important part of making you who you're going to be. It was a very important part of making me who I became. I had 2 very strong mentors when I was in public accounting. I had 3 or 4 very strong mentors when I was at Prudential. After that, maybe not so much, except for the fact that that group of mentors from public accounting and from my time at Prudential stayed in my network. So I would periodically touch base with them. And they were very impactful on decisions that I had made, very impactful on being there for me when I was facing an issue. And to this day, life moves on. My mentors were always 20 years older than me. So now in my mid-60s, very few of those people are around or in the business of being mentors, right? And you look back and you say, you go from saying, well, I'm going to call and get their opinion. It's kind of like Star Wars, where you go back and you say, 3 episodes after Obi-Wan was gone, Obi-Wan, what am I going to do? And he shows up and he gives you the pathway forward. So what you're saying is, what would my mentor have done now? And that's the most impactful thing when someone says, well, what would he or she have done? And what is that telling me what I need to do? It's kind of a pretty spiritual connection.
Yeah.
But you have to, you need several mentors in your career as you're moving forward. And you need to be able to call upon them and maintain them in your network.
All right, so moving on to question 7, and this is actually our last question. So what is your favorite part of going to work every day, and what do you look forward to?
I look forward to the first phone call or the first Zoom meeting, and because that's, the battle starts, right? So working with people starts then, moving the ball forward starts then. You could sit behind your computer and do all the spreadsheets you want or review as many documents as you want. But it's when you're dealing with the people that's what turns me on.
All right, nice. So thank you for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us. Your responses provide invaluable guidance for our listeners on their journey to success. And that wraps up episode 1 of the 15-minute podcast with Brandon Salazar. We hope you've enjoyed gaining insights from our guests and exploring the world of business with us. Don't forget to check out the podcast on our social media at the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast on YouTube and Instagram for upcoming episodes. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.